Another thing that comes with the question word which, that I suppose we've been kind of alluding to with these side comments about political situations and people working together, is this pragmatic, practical aspect of questions of possible alliances, that when you decide who your teammates are going to be, which person do I pick? With which cause do I align myself? Which charity does does a certain portion of my money that I want to give to charitable causes go? Which charitable organization? In choosing which one, there's a sense in which you unavoidably create some sort of alliance, that this person is my teammate, this is a cause I support, and suddenly in the eyes of the world around us, or in the eyes of society, that cause, its leadership, somehow becomes part of how people define ourselves. That if for example, if I spent a day working with a nonprofit organization that deals with ecological concerns in an extreme way, doing confrontational demonstrations and such, if that was the sort of demonstration in which I participated, how the public sees that organization would begin to be a little bit, at least, of how they see me. Well, you were with them, you're supporting them, so obviously you must agree with them to some extent. That makes the choice of which rather complicated, because in some cases we want to support a cause, but sometimes the way the people involved in that cause are going about it is not the way we would go about it if we were the ones calling the shots and making the decisions for that organization. If, for example, someone in a third world country is noticing that their country is very oppressed by wealthier countries, and they have tried all the usual avenues of trying to get people's attention to this problem, and saying, my people are hurting, won't somebody help them? And nobody does anything. At that point, they have a choice of which way they're going to go. Are they going to accept that it's a problem that's not going away, oppression is here until some greater force, some solidarity of the people or something can successfully stand against it? Or they could say, I'll make the other choice, as some have. Personally, I believe violence is always the wrong answer, but I understand that when you get to a point of frustration and you ask yourself, which path shall I choose, the path of peace or the path of violence? Some people choose the path of violence because of how frustrated they feel and how essential it feels to do something to draw attention to the problem. The complication of resorting to violence, of course, is that it sometimes creates a backlash and doesn't generally help the cause anyway. It draws attention to them, and it may draw attention to their cause, but it doesn't create, in my opinion, it doesn't create motivation in those who can help to help. It instead creates defensiveness. Suddenly they're not looking at your country that you're trying to draw attention to, they're looking at you as the perpetrator of violence. And so in a way, the person who has resorted to violence in order, hoping to draw attention to their country's problems, is instead becoming the distraction from other people looking at their country's problems and addressing the problems about which they're so concerned. Instead, all attention shifts to dealing with acts of violence and with terrorism, instead of dealing with the human concerns behind all of that, the concerns that are not being effectively addressed, and consequently pushing more and more people to desperate actions to draw attention to the plight of their people. If we did a better job of taking care of each other, hopefully, not entirely, but hopefully it would at least radically decrease the number of such instances, because we wouldn't wind up with people feeling so frustrated. But this is, again, the question of which. Which are we going to do? Are we going to act from frustration? Are we going to act from anger? Are we going to act from peace, love, compassion? Which way is it going to be? And which will it be? Will we have the patience to wait for a peaceful solution to come, even though it may take longer? Or will we have the impatience sufficient to resort to more drastic measures because there isn't time to wait for some people? And unfortunately, and I don't mean to minimize this, it's a tragedy, and it's a common, frequent tragedy within human history, but it is no less a tragedy just because it's common. And that is that again and again and again, when people have attempted to address problems, things with their societies, with their governments that are being oppressive, and they want them to stop, in virtually every case, people have to die before enough, well, as I put it, before discontent reaches critical mass. Until it's like in virtually any city across the country. There, time and time again, if there is a car accident at a particular intersection, the next step is to put up a stop sign. Until there is a car accident, if someone feels there should be a stop sign there, it may be a lengthy argument with their elected officials saying, I want a stop sign on that corner. I want a stop sign on that corner. I want a stop sign on that corner. Why is it so difficult to have a stop sign on that corner? And they get nowhere until there's a car accident and someone gets killed. And the next day, there's a stop sign on the corner. Why do we keep pushing ourselves to such extremes? I don't know. It's disappointing, but it seems to be a well-established precedent that will probably continue.